Hello everybody. Today we're going to talk about some of the materials and gadgets and stuff that I use to create the whole sculpting process and stuff. A couple days ago I got a phone call from one of my best friends who had just gotten out of the hospital, and he was catching up on some live streams, and he watched my appearance on Purple Valkyrie's channel where I was talking about my process and how I learned to do what I do and all that. And he was trying to pick my brain for some more detailed information, so I thought like what I was telling him might be helpful to some other people. What I generally use is Super Sculpey Firm. Okay, this is a lot different than the regular Sculpey you'll find at the in the arts and crafts section at your Michael's or whatever your local Hobby Lobby or whatever it is. The regular Sculpey tends to be very, very soft, and it's hard to catch detail with it. This stuff is really, well, like the label says, it's firm. So catches detail. It's pretty easy to work with, and I'm going to go into some of the materials, some of the sculpting tools I found that work. One thing I'm not sure if I put together. I shot that part first because, I don't know, just seemed like a thing to do. These guys here have been a lifesaver. These are silicone-tipped sculpting tools. And that with, you dip in some alcohol, get a little damp, and you work over the sculpt, and it gives you a very soft finish. And it's like sometimes when you're using the metal or even the plastic sculpting tools, it kind of cuts into the clay a little bit and will leave lines, and you got to go over it until you work your way out. These things are amazing. They'll really help you to smooth things out without leaving those big, groovy marks and stuff like that. So it helps you to get a more polished look on your finished sculpture. Amazon, just look for like silicone sculpting tools, and you'll find them on there. Okay, so the rest of this is going to be just some general tools where you can find things. Some of the things that I've made, like I do these little wooden bases to sculpt off of, and the wood that I'll go is over in my local Lowe's. They have a section there where they use, it's called craft wood, and it comes in different thicknesses. And I just get this piece. It's about like a ½ inch and about 2.5 inches wide, and I'll cut that down, drill a hole in it, and put the dowel in, and this will serve as my base. I like using the wood because once you get the head sculpt done, you can just put it right into the oven. Couple things about the curing process in the Sculpey. You can put it in there at a lower heat for a longer time, and it will get a little bit more hardened and a little less brittle. I've used like lower cooking times, and I found that the clay didn't cure all the way. So I will leave it in the oven for about an hour and a half up to 2 hours. And then, very important, to let it cool inside the oven. If you don't and you take it out and the temperature changes too quickly, your sculpture can crack, and you really don't want that, especially if you've spent a whole bunch of time on it. But anyway, I'm going to try and put some of these links in the description where you can find some of the stuff. Super Sculpey, Amazon might be your best bet. Michael's will usually have it for about $17, $18 for a block like this. It's a 1 pound block. Hobby Lobby is usually about the same price, but lately I have not seen it in stock in those stores, so you might want to check Amazon first. I believe you can also order it off of Blick Art Supplies too. I found it there. Okay, so enough of me blabbering. I'm going to cut here and go on to the other video that has more of the useful information. Okay, so the tools that I've acquired over the years, of my sculpting and that I found are helpful to me. Now, there's a lot of different guys out there with a lot of different processes and things that work for them. This is just where it works for me. So I start with a block of wood. I use my drill press to put a little hole in there in the middle. Then I'll take a 1/4-inch dowel. I like the square dowels because it actually holds the clay in there. I found the round ones that the head piece can spin around on a little bit. I will round off the bottom of the dowel so it fits inside the little hole. And then I'll mount my clay on this. Okay, I use Super Sculpey Firm. As the name suggests, it's more firm than typical Sculpey, so it holds detail a lot better. And regular Sculpey, if you even breathe on it wrong, you'll get a deformation in your sculpture, which is really, really annoying. So I like to use the Super Sculpey Firm. It's a little bit harder to use to get soft. You have to really work a little bit. It used to come in this waxed cardboard box that would sort of hold the moisture in a little bit, which was great, but they opted to start using this cellophane thing. So once it's opened, I put it inside this little snappy container here. It's got a little gasket, holds your moisture in. And I'll take a piece of the clay and I'll start to work it into a basically cylindrical or oval shape. This, and I will mount it onto the post here like this. Put his head on a pike. Okay, so you get your basic shape there. Now, one of the most important things that you need to know when you're sculpting this is how big is it going to be. So this is where your digital caliper comes in. You can pick these guys up. Harbor Freight, which is, if you don't have one around you, is a really cheap tool site. You can probably find them on Amazon, roughly the same price, but you can get these for about $20 if you just want a basic model, which is all I use. It has, you could zeros out. It has inches or millimeters on there. I found that the average head sculpt for a 6-scale figure is about, for a male figure, is about 38 millimeters high. So I'll go here, and you can see how it lines up. That's the height of my head. Okay. So then what you do is you work this like you hold this up to your image on the screen, and I'll hold it up like this so I can kind of accurately go like that, and that will tell me the distance between like the distance between the eyes, the distance between from the bottom of the eye to the chin, the distance of the nose, the eyebrow, like and where to place the eye. So it's generally about halfway up to the top of the head. Depending upon the shape of people's faces, it will be off a little bit, but not very much. For the most part, the eyes are like right in the center of the face. So, and I sculpt all of my head sculpts bald first because I'll add the hair on later with a softer clay. Okay, so as far as tools and what I use to sculpt with, I initially started off with just the basic accessories you can pick up at your local hobby store in your crafting section, but I found they're rather limited. So I thought, hey, maybe I should try those fancy schmancy wooden sculpting tools. And I got all these. So my message to you is stop and pick yourself up a case to carry all of your sculpting tools, because before you know it, you're going to have that and all of this and all these various sculpting tools to use on your projects. Now, I was on these forums and I found out that what a lot of guys were using were old dental tools. And I found out a friend of mine was a dental assistant, and she told me that the dental tools basically have to be swapped out like every month or so for new ones. So I said, hey, what do you do with the old ones? Like, we usually just throw them out. Like, could you throw some my way? So I took some of them. But these things here, these are sculpting, carving, or lockpick sets from, again, Harbor Freight, because they tend to be cheap and you don't really need a whole lot of anything. There's a lot of guys out there that use homemade things. I found that I've done some homemade tools. I've modified some of these, so they were initially a little bit longer. I would flatten them out, like make some curves a little bit deeper. These guys here are like little cutting tools that you can use. I found these at Michael's the other day to capture some detail where you're trying to pull some clay out, cut some clay out. Okay, so once you get all of this done, you start off with your sculpture, and you start doing your face. Now, I used to sculpt the eyeballs in by hand until I found these little porcelain balls at a puppet supply house called Mooresmore, and these are 6mm porcelain eyes, and I started putting them on the inside like this, and it comes out much better for me because now I don't have to worry about them being like slightly off in size. I can worry about the accuracy like that, and I found that to be very helpful. Okay, once I get the head sculpt done the way I like it, I'll do things with different techniques, adding texture, which I'll get into in a later video, sculpt the ears on, then I'll put it in the oven to cure it. Now, it says 15 minutes for every 1/4 inch. What I will generally do is I'll start off the entire sculpture in there at about 170 degrees, leave it in there for a half hour, raise it up to about 200, 210, and then finally go up to the 270 mark where you need it, and leave it in there for about 2 hours cooking like that. And then it's very important you turn the oven off and let it cool inside the oven. It says you can take it right out of the oven. Don't believe it. Sometimes it will work, but often you'll get a big crack running down as the clay can't really adapt as the temperature dropping so quickly. So you get a big crack down something you just worked hours and hours on, which is really frustrating. Okay, so that's your base there. Then what I do is after that, I will take a soft Sculpey and I'll make the hair out of that and get that into the shape and the texture and so forth that I'm looking for in the with the soft Sculpey. So I found that it holds the lines a little bit better. But that's pretty much it. Then, of course, once it's finished, I'll do the molding and the casting, which of course we'll cover in another subsequent video. But that's basically the your shopping list. You're going to start off. You're going to get your Super Sculpey firm. Get yourself a little piece of wood, a little 1/4 inch dowel. Put it in there, a little spike on the end. Put it in there. That'll hold your thing in place. Get your box to hold your sculpting tools because you're going to acquire a lot. Pick up anything that you think might be helpful. I also use this little guy here. It comes from the auto supply store in Walmart in the body shop section. You can, like, it's got the Bondo thing on there. What I'll do is if I have to flatten things out to, like, if I'm doing hair or something, I'll take this and I'll take the little roller, flatten it out to the thickness I want, and I'll use my X-Acto knife to cut shapes into it, peel them off, and apply them to the sculpt. I found it's a lot easier than trying to do it off the table, like where you put your clay on the table, work with the little, rolling pin here, and I found it works better. Another thing you might want to get is the set of Styluses. Styluses work great because you can get into the little nooks and crannies around the eyes and shape that a little bit nice and smooth. Also around the corners of the mouth comes in handy, and inside the ears. Ears are a nightmare. No matter what you do, occasionally they come out looking great the first shot. Most of the time you have to rework them over and over again if you really want them to look good. So basically that's it. Regular sculpting tools at the in your art supply store. These are lockpick tools or carving tools that you can find on the Harbor Freight website. You can modify them, change them if you need to. Like I've got some of these where I've filed down a little bit smaller to get into more detail. Other things I've flattened out with a hammer more so I can use them for different situations. These little guys here I found at Michael's for about $10. So that could help you with what you're getting into some of those spaces and cutting things away. But that's pretty much it for my shopping list about what I get started with, and hopefully it helps you out. If you have any more questions that I might be able to answer for you and help you out with your sculpting needs, or just any advice that I've come through over these years, or even any suggestions for me that might help my process, I greatly appreciate it. Thanks for watching.